Okay, hello everyone. This is the Member Services Advisory Committee on Thursday, October 14th. This is going to be an informal meeting because we do not have quorum, but I still wanted to have this meeting anyways. We do have an agenda for this as well. And then I will do very loose Robert's rules. So if anyone wants to speak, we'll just list and then we'll go through whatever we have on our agenda today. Before we move further, I'd like to acknowledge that Simon Fraser Student Society is located on the unceded territories of the Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh territories. Unceded means that these lands were never given up and that they were stolen. And as staff and as counselors and as non-executives, we always encourage you folks to know where you are settling on, and the work that we do always amplify these voices that we work with. So for the roll call of attendance, please state your name, your position, and your access needs. I'll go first. My name is Jess. My pronouns are she, her, hers. My role is VP Events and Student Affairs, and I chair this committee for my access needs. I think I am okay. And then we'll move on to our education counselor.
Hi everyone, I'm Jen. My pronouns are she and her, and my internet connection is a little unstable and it's currently 2 a.m. here, so I wouldn't be able to turn on my camera, but yeah, thank you.
Jen, if you want to leave and go back to sleep, that's totally fine. It's 2 a.m. where you are. I'll just fill you in after, but thank you for being here. I appreciate it. Our International Studies counselor, Deanna, has submitted their regrets due to a work and time conflict. Our Vice Chair, Philosophy Counselor, Tony Yu, is not here and has not submitted their regrets. We'll move on to our new counselor on this committee, our archaeology counselor.
Hey guys, my name is Damon. My pronouns are he and him. As for access needs, I think they're met. And yeah, I'm the archaeology counselor.
Thank you, Damon. And then we'll move on to our society staff, which we have a bunch of them today. Thank you. Who's first? Ella's not here, BD's not here, but Melanie, you are.
Hi everyone, I'm Melanie. Pronouns are she, her, hers, and my access needs are met, and I am one of the member services club coordinators.
Thank you, Melanie. And we'll move on to Nancy.
Hi there, my name's Nancy. I am also one of the club coordinators. My pronouns are she, her, and hers. And in this building, for some reason, where the office I'm located in, the internet is quite unstable. So that's why my camera's off. Thanks.
It's been like that for the whole week across all campuses, which is so unfortunate. Afua, would you like to go? If your microphone is not working, you can also type it in the chat. So your name, your role, your pronouns, and your access needs. We'll go to Ricky.
Hi, my name is Ricky. My pronouns are he, him, his. I am one of the club coordinators as well. All my access needs are met.
Thank you, Ricky. And Dipti.
Hey, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Oh, great. Okay. I thought my Zoom still has issues with the volume. Okay. Hi, everyone. My name is Dipti, pronoun she, her, hers. And now since my Zoom issues have been resolved, so my all access needs are met.
Thank you, Dipti. The agenda needs to be updated because Shelly is no longer the member services coordinator for Surrey, but that would be Afua. So whenever you're ready, I can read it out for you. And then Aisha is not here today. We'll move on to section 4. Be it resolved, the consent agenda 4.1, be it resolved to adopt the consent agenda by unanimous consent. Can I have a mover? Honestly, Jen and Damon, it's just you two. So Damon moves. Jen, can you second informally? Okay, I will second because it's 2 a.m. where Jen is. So me and Damon, it's just you and me today. I'm going to read out Afua's introduction. My name is Afua. My pronoun is she, her. I am the Member Services Coordinator for Surrey. So welcome, Afua. Okay, so 4.1.1, ratification of regrets submitted by International Studies Counselor Deanna Short. Be it resolved to ratify regrets from Deanna. Oh yeah, that was under the consent agenda, so that's fine. We'll go to section 5, adoption of the agenda, 5.1. Be it resolved to adopt the agenda as presented. I will move this motion. Damon, will you second? Yes. Damon seconds. The motion is carried, so we'll go on to the discussion items. 6.1 SFSS poster boards submitted by MSC Clubs. Ricky.
Thanks, Jess. I don't know if this committee knows, but we have a bunch of poster boards that we oversee at the SFSS, and I don't have the list handy here, but they include ones in Convo Mall. There's one in the West, there's one at, I think, in West Mall, as well as one by the, I don't know if it's still called the Mackenzie Cafe in the AQ. So we oversee those. Typically, we have staff clear the boards every once in a while, just to make sure that they're not unruly or untidy. They do get abused quite a bit, and it is quite a bit of work for the student staff here to go through and take all the posters off. I noticed that they recently redid the one in Convo Mall, and it's already started to get a little crowded. So I think I was hoping to bring this to the committee to see if we want to hold on to these poster boards or if we want to just get rid of them. We don't really have an approval process for it anymore. We used to, and we used to get the posters stamped and approved. But it seems like at this point now there's less of that going on, so we haven't really done that.
Thank you, Ricky, and Melanie's on the list.
Yeah, I just feel that it's more appropriate for SFU facilities staff to be the ones to clear the poster boards. I don't really feel like it makes sense for our administrative assistants to have to go there and get like recycling bins and clear poster boards. So I personally think that this is something that we can discuss with SFU in kind of returning those poster boards to them. And because we have the student union building now, I think there were discussions about having poster boards in the building. So those would be like the SFSS owned ones.
If we were to give them to SFU, would students still be allowed to like put their own stuff on them? Because some of them are locked with the glass, and so they have to like open it up and then put the paper inside. Like the Women's Center has those. I've seen their posters in there too. But would we have to go through SFU's application process then to do that?
I don't think the ones with the glass or the plastic casing, people aren't technically supposed to be putting posters in there. I think those might belong to specific departments or something because they need to like unlock it and let people put stuff in. But sometimes you see a lot of random stuff because I think people just slip it in there.
Nancy?
Oh, okay, that's right, because anything that's locked belongs to whomever the group is, whether it be the union, whether it be ABSA. Certain ones that are locked do belong to a particular group. I do believe, I'm sure I heard it somewhere that SFU actually would like to remove those poster boards to make it cleaner. to get rid of all that stuff because it's such a mess, and to make it much more a business-like looking campus. Anyway, that's the only other part. And it is there. Let them clean up that mess because, you know, for us to be paying student employees to be cleaning down boards really makes no sense.
Did we talk to MEX, or is this, so this is facilities? Okay, so I still want to have poster boards at least, but if we don't have to clean them, I don't mind if SFU facilities clean them, but as long as students can still poster in appropriate spaces, and yeah, it's going to look messy, but a lot of posters for advocacy work is done through posting it around on campus, whether it be on the walls, on these poster boards, all of that. So if we don't have to clean it, I don't mind. I also agree that our student staff shouldn't be cleaning that because then they have to walk around everywhere during their shift to clean it up. So Ricky, would you be able to reach out to SFU facilities to work on this? But the agreement is that they clean it, but we can still have access to like poster on them.
So I don't know if I have the authority to reach out to them about that. It might be an agreement that needs to be done at a higher level. Maybe someone from exec to do so, to make an agreement, say, hey, we would like to make an arrangement to do that. In terms of previous arrangements and agreements, there wasn't a formal one. There was just an email with Aaron Middlecombe saying this is an informal agreement, which is being made formal by email at this time until a further agreement can be made. So I don't know if there's a document that actually documents that agreement between SFU and SFSS, but I don't think I have the authority to just reach out to facilities and say, hey, clean it up.
To Aaron Biddlecombe? Okay. Yeah, are you able to forward, if you ever find it, are you able to forward it to me and then I can take lead on this?
Yep, I can do that.
Okay. Okay, cool. So something for me, Samaya, if this can be on record with my little action items for the end of this meeting, I will contact SFU facilities to discuss poster boards and cleanup, but as well as spaces for students where we can poster. And then Ricky to forward me an email of informal agreement from Aaron Biddlecombe about this. I guess some questions that I have and that I will like a discussion that'll add on to this is postering within the sub. I will be working with our building managers to discuss where students can poster. And I think Ricky, you mentioned something about an approval process of how these posters can be posted up. And I know that was related to the poster boards within SFU campus, but within the sub would be different. So that's something that I will look into as well. So are there any other last comments or questions for these poster boards? Okay, we'll move on to 6.2 funding guidelines revision submitted by Melanie. And then there was an attachment titled Funding Guidelines Suggested Revisions, October 1, 2021. Melanie, take it away.
Yes, so I don't know if everyone has that document pulled up, but there were a couple changes I wanted to make just on the first few pages of like the general policies. So the first one was that grants must be submitted at least 2 months before the date of the event or project if the amount requested is over $3,000. And this came from a discussion with Corbett and Aisha, I think, and the rest of the club coordinators, just because it takes longer for the approval for grants over 3,000 because that goes through the executive or like council. And so we need more time to be able to do that. yeah, I think that one's pretty straightforward. And then the second one on the next page, we had a section there about sustainability. So we said we weren't granting money for disposable cups, plates, cutlery, and napkins anymore, and groups had to purchase their own environmentally sustainable versions of that, or they could contact the student center, and we used to order and like give out these supplies. However, we no longer have that. I mean, right now we're kind of focusing on the COVID safety supplies, and also disposable items are better for like sanitation and safety right now during the pandemic. So it's kind of a trade-off, unfortunately. So I was thinking maybe we should remove that part. And then the last thing is just adding a part about how grants will not be approved for events or projects that have already taken place before the grant is approved. Like retroactive expenses will not be reimbursed. And funds will only be reimbursed for expenses incurred after the grant is approved. We have this on the actual grant form, like the terms and conditions they have to accept before they can fill out the form, but it's not actually in the policies or the funding guidelines. So I wanted to add that.
Do you have more?
No, that was just those 3 changes.
What are the, I can only open it on the PDF version, but there's red and blue text under travel accommodations, conference and competitions. Was that part of your edits?
Oh, okay. So I don't know what happened with the formatting, but the text was supposed to be like at the top, like on those first 2 pages. I think it somehow got messed up.
Okay.
Yeah, it's not supposed to be under travel accommodations.
Okay. Okay, so the first edit was the text in blue under submission deadlines.
Yes.
So grants must be submitted at least 2 months before the date of the event and project if the amount requested is over $3,000, not including the date of submission. I don't mind that process. We just have to notify Almas that this is happening as well.
Okay.
Another thing though is that would this be related to any tier 2 room booking deposits?
I don't believe so. And I guess I'm not really sure if there will be deposits for tier 2, especially for our internal groups.
Internal, no, but I know for external, yes. But if, okay, so this is for internal then, right?
Yeah.
Okay, that's fine. The second one, so for under sustainability, are we, rather than providing money to provide disposable supplies, we would have to remove that because instead we're providing supplies for COVID, like masks and hand sanitizer and stuff.
Yeah, so I think we should just remove the sustainability section, unfortunately.
We do have to update this though to include COVID-19. So we could change that section instead of sustainability for COVID-19, and then student groups can just take their food and their supplies and these disposable plates and cutlery out of their own grants, like out of their own core and trust funding.
Yep, we can do that.
Okay. Does anyone else have any input on these? I can share this. So we're going to remove sustainability and then replace it with COVID-19 safety supplies. Melanie, you may have to bring this document back up again when COVID is over, whenever that would be. Would that be okay?
Yeah, of course.
Okay. I also want to take a look at SFSS community and inclusivity. I think this is too bare. Something that I suggest to add out is our issues policies. a link to it at least, so that this is like how we view what community and inclusivity is. How would that sound?
Yeah, I think we can do that as well.
Especially IP7, which discusses Indigenous inclusion on campus. So something like that. And then that also has, one of the issues policy is also on sustainability. So while we are removing the sustainability section, as long as it's underneath SFSS community inclusivity, I don't mind it being there. So that's just my proposed edit for that as well.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Okay. Any other comments or questions?
I think Ricky had a comment.
Oh yes, please go ahead.
I think you mentioned that groups were able to buy COVID-19 supplies from their core or trust funding, did you say? Is that a temporary measure, or is that going to be a more permanent measure? Because right now, core and the club's equivalent would be resource funding. I don't think we allow them to use that for COVID supplies.
I remember we mentioned it before when we wouldn't provide it, like where they could buy it from their core and trust fund and then get it reimbursed. But now we're encouraging student groups to apply when they have events and stuff, that they go through the application process, because then they can actually, we can provide it for them. So they can still use their trust and core fund to provide these safety supplies and also get reimbursed, but that's because I didn't have any arrangements beforehand with pickup before.
So clubs are allowed to use the resource funds for this now as well.
I think it was just petty cash.
Okay, that's what I wanted to clarify, if it was resource as well, or if it was just petty cash.
I recall it being petty cash.
Okay.
Okay. This petty cash, there's never, we don't have like a box of it, no. Like at the Go desk or anything like we used to.
Oh, it's not like it's like done on a reimbursement basis. So
Okay,
they
good.
would spend the money and then get reimbursed, and we would deduct it from their account.
Okay. I would want to ask Anna about travel accommodations, conferences, and competitions under this, because I know that these were changed during COVID. Because this document was last updated before the world, oh wait, what was this? Last updated March 5th, 2021. Okay, good, not 2020. Has Anna looked at this yet, Melanie?
She was part of that discussion when we did revise it back in March of this year. The thing is, I think for these funding guidelines, just because we know that, or we hope that the things with COVID are temporary, we didn't want to change too much, because then it would just mean we'd have to keep on revising everything. So these are kind of supposed to be like more the standard guidelines. And then we did have like a condensed version called like Funding 101. And then on that one, we highlighted any changes that were made for COVID, such as increasing the food funding for virtual events and the prizes.
Okay.
So we kind of made the temporary COVID funding adjustments on that one.
Okay. Are we able to review that at our next MSA then?
Yep.
Okay, thank you. Let me put that to Samaya. I can't see the text on this. Apparel, branded items, printed merchandise. This is something that I wanted student input on from Damon and Tony, welcome. and Jin. So this is like our merch basically, clothing or items that have the club student union logo on it, like t-shirts, hoodies, pens, etc. Items must not be for single use or specific events, and they must be intended for long-term multi-purpose use. They must be of reasonable cost. Designer brands and luxurious brands will not be approved. So what we consider bigger items would be reusable water bottles and tote bags. We'll fund up to $300 per year. Smaller items, lanyards, post-it notes, pens, and hand sanitizers up to $250. T-shirts, $10 per person to a maximum of $200 per year. Hoodies, $30 per person up to $300. Jerseys, $40 per person to a maximum of $400 per year. I was wondering if we could include poster boards. So for example, those big banners under the bigger items. Nancy, how much do poster boards usually, or those banners usually cost?
Jess, that's actually coming out of resource funds
Oh, is it?
because they have so much money in resource funds. It's usually about $200 max for a banner.
That's a lot.
We also have it under printing. If they ran out of resource funding and they needed a grant, they could get that approved for printing costs. And we have
Oh, there it
guidelines
is.
about banners under that.
Okay, good. Thank you for catching that. There it is. Oh, good. Okay. Damon, Tony, and Jin, are there any other materials you see that is long-term for students and for your clubs? So when you do events and you purchase, what have you purchased most of?
Sorry to interject, I definitely did not hit list. Like with archaeology, it hasn't happened since COVID, but before COVID, we did like a yearly event called the Paleo Olympics. So we would always have to spend not a hefty sum, but a larger than normal sum of money on like getting materials to like set it up. And some of that would be like starting a fire, like doing it like with 2 pieces of wood or like flint and stone, or like flint knapping, and then like we need targets to like make these spears out of like it's a whole thing. We get the department involved, it becomes this kind of big event, so we always have to spend a decent amount of money there, but I don't really know what that would fall under, because that's like we were doing it annually, so it was a large event that we did every year. So like our bigger, like what, for an example, a bigger item we have is like outside of our department, we have like this huge, probably like 4 foot by 2 foot piece of styrofoam that we use as a target during the year. And it's after 2 years out, just outside and having probably at least 100 spears thrown at it. It's not in great condition.
I think that would be considered for like a single event though. So not really like
Okay.
printed materials or merchandise that wouldn't count.
Okay. I know that some student unions, like archaeology did it. We were doing face masks during COVID. That's a smaller one. So should COVID continue to be a vital part of our society, that could also be one to add to smaller items.
What do we think? That's a good point. I know Melanie had specific ones for like COVID, Nancy, and then Melanie when needed.
We approve things for masks and that for special projects and that. Some groups wanted to do it as a fundraiser or give them as gifts to the first responders and that kind of thing. So we did approve grant funding for that. Now DSUs, I'm not really sure because Anna's not here to answer to about DSUs.
There is a category for equipment and supply purchases, so I think that one's a little more general, and other supplies could fall under that. In terms of like branded items though, like I guess for face masks, like wanting the reusable ones with like the club or student union logo or something, like that is something we can add.
I think the branded ones, I've seen like Geography Student Union have them. So those are pretty cool. I would want them to fall under smaller items as well. So that can be an edit that we can make like a suggestion. And I know like it has for examples, but that could be things that students like could also use if they don't think about it beforehand. And then Damon had a question in the chat. How often did DSUs actually use the merch grant? I wish Anna was here, but what about clubs? Do we have like a general idea?
I don't think we've collected like specific data on what the grant requests are for, but I feel like it is quite regular, especially we see for a lot of like hoodie and t-shirt requests more often. And yeah, I do remember seeing some requests for like smaller items like lanyards, reusable water bottles and stuff.
Yes, I think one of the reasons why, when it comes to lanyards and sometimes water bottles and things, some of the clubs might have sponsors that, you know, donate that kind of stuff with their logos all on it. See, and I think that even happens with some of the business students and everything, right? Depending on their speakers or whoever they're bringing in, things always get donated.
Yes, is that why you're saying it would be under considered the bigger items?
Well, it is expensive because I believe I saw recently somebody had purchased or getting a water bottle with the logo put on it, and it was $16 each.
50, I don't even think ours cost that much if we collab with who are we working with, Dipti, for our water bottles?
That's Ban the Bottles. I think that's one of the club.
Yeah, their logo's on it. It's costing $16 for us. For the food one, yeah, Melanie, we might have to look at that COVID one next because like there's not logistics about how they should be individually packaged, whatnot. And I know these are general, but we have to make sure that that COVID one and this one is available to our students because might clash with our guidelines.
Yes. Yeah, I think we'll need to figure out how to do that just because, yeah, it's a lot of changes and we don't want to get rid of the guidelines we had pre-COVID because we'll have to go back to those at some point. And so I think it's better to just have guidelines that are like for normal times and then just have all the changes for COVID like highlighted separately and be like, until further notice, these changes will apply.
Yes. So we can look at that at our next meeting too, because that food one we'd look at too. I'm okay with the changes that you suggested. Okay, are there any other comments or questions about the proposed changes? We can look at them again, Melanie, at our next meeting, this general one, and then the COVID specific one. Is that okay?
Yes, sorry, my laptop's having issues. Yes, we can do that. So for the next meeting, did you want me to make revisions based on what we talked about today? And then I can bring the updated version to the next meeting?
Yes, please.
Okay.
Thank you. Our next discussion item is our semester at a glance. So things that I put on here, I know just something that I want to work on with you folks. Let me pull it up really quick. These are just really short ones that I thought of at the top of my head. But I know that because of COVID and because of the in-person stuff, we will change this, and there's going to be more things that come up, like what our clubs coordinators add on. But from my goals to continue for the rest of the semester at least. October, we'll look at our funding guidelines to include changes related to COVID and room bookings of tier 1 and tier 2, and I'll update you folks on that progress as well, especially for our non-executive counselors who hasn't been looped in yet on what's happening with our room bookings. And then last council meeting, we had really tough discussions on policies and processes regarding sexual violence and assault and bullying and harassment. We've had instances within the first part of my term where there was a lot of bullying harassment cases. So I want to look at those for the month of November more closely, as well as work with the appropriate people with an SBSPO as well with anything related to sexual violence and assault, and see if we need to update anything regards to our club's terms of reference. So that will be my goal for the month of November. For December, which we would probably only have like one meeting in December because of final exams and because school ends within like the first 2 weeks of December. So something that we'll look at again would be just continuing on of that project for December. Okay. For our non-executive counselors and our staff, is there anything that you also want to, something that's pressing from the first term, I guess from May to August, that you want to continue on, or a project that you want to work on, and then I can add it here based on the month, and then I can put leads onto them as well. So this is October. There's only 2 weeks left. I guess close day.
Sorry, can you repeat?
Clubs days.
Oh, yeah.
You would probably need MSA support on that. When are you, I know that you're starting to plan it now. Where would you want our heavy involvement starting?
Should be now because there's lots of
Okay.
planning to be done, and it's going to be like if we plan in person for the first time, then definitely we need to plan in advance and start it with full fledged. And I can take over after once we actually have things finalized, but at least till we reach that that place where we actually have now announcement done and students group and clubs, they are aware that we have in-person clubs days and what our plan is, then I think it's going to be, I won't need too much support. And of course, on the day off, I need support.
Okay, Nancy?
Have the building people like John and Shelley and the coordinators said yes to a in-person inside the sub yet?
Yes, so we have meeting with Shelley soon, and one of the ideas that Shelley has come up with is if we can close the building for one day and let people enter just by from the one entrance and check their vaccine passports as we required to do so for the event, then maybe we can, but I don't know if this is going to be like one of the very big event, and if students will be mad at us for doing this big level event and not allowing them to even book rooms. But I don't know. That's why we need to sit and talk and discuss if this is doable and if you guys will be comfortable managing any complaints that come, because it's very easy for us to decide, but it will be especially clubs coordinator who will need to face this crowd actually, or maybe clubs, because now we're not allowing them to book rooms or anything. So they might come and complain to you guys.
But how, okay, you're saying to hold it as a one-day event only in the building.
Yes,
But how?
that's the suggestion from Shelley. So that means they do, John has, John did agree, John did say that we can definitely use, you remember as per our previous plan, we do it over the period of 3 days and we have clubs use those conference rooms, but in each conference room, there is limit of how many people can be in there. And then we don't have capacity to manage each conference rooms. So that's why Shelley came up with this idea to close the building. But this is just an idea. This is not a confirmation or anything. But yes, we can definitely do club stays in the building. And John has no issues with it.
Well, it's strange because no, the original idea was to hold it in the building, but use all of the bookable rooms that we have, the small and large, to put a club in each one that they're booked for, 3 hours or whatever the case may be, and they can only book once over that period, and people will be able to enter in the building, but the people would be outside in the hallway to line up, not going into those rooms, because the table would be blocking the doorway. So the people that are actually belongs to the club that are working at the club stay would be on the inside of the room. And anybody else would be on the outside, anybody who's interested in the club. So that was what I thought we had discussed. Now it's changed. And I think we better get a clear picture of how it's planning to be set up. Is the whole building going to be set up with clubs all over the place?
Yeah, because if we do meeting rooms, Nancy, then we have 3 meeting rooms and the capacity is 22. We have one boardroom capacity is 10. We have 14 team rooms. Then capacity for those team rooms is only 6. So even if we put 2 clubs there, I don't know how we can manage that, because and how we can manage capacity in each rooms actually. So it's going to be too much for us, because we will need like staff members walking around and making sure that the clubs, they follow the capacity of each meeting rooms or team rooms that they're using. So it's going to be hard for us to manage. Rather, we were thinking if we can, I'm inclining towards Shelley's suggestion if we can close the building, but I want to make sure that we're not really doing or planning anything that we say no to clubs or student groups.
We might have to, so at our next MSA meeting, we'll put a discussion item for club stays. And then I know, Nancy, we had those initial conversations about students occupying each and every room, and they'll walk in outside and no one really goes in except the executives. And then that new idea that was brought up by Shelley to close this up for at least one day to do these club stays. So that's a discussion that we would have to have more in depth with her involvement, I think, so we can invite Shelley to our next MSA meeting as well.
I would also not just invite her, but ask her to bring the floor plans so that we can actually see each floor, how it's going to be utilized.
We do have, I can send you the link for the floor plans John has sent me.
Okay, Maya, I'm putting all my action items on your Zoom VMs so I don't forget. Okay, so club stays, I think we'll have a more thorough discussion at our next MSA meetings. That would be for November. Are there any other things on top? Oh, Afua, how is Surrey Club Stays going to be? I guess like when are you starting to plan the Surrey Club Stays? What month? Okay, I think Afua's mic was not working, but let me know. Oh, there it is. At the end of the month, I think I should have all the details and I'll update the committee. Okay, that sounds great.
Can I add a little bit, if and this was my discussion with Shelley too, and this is how Surrey Club Days have been working. I don't know about the venue, but I know Surrey can now plan Club Days, I think pretty much in the mezzanine again, but it's going to be in the 3rd week of January. So that's what we're planning if we plan Burnaby Club Days, and this is on the demand from students. It's going to be week of 24th in January.
So the goal is for us is to have almost at the end of January in-person Club Days in Surrey and in the sub. Nancy suggests, I think for the next meeting, we will need the floor plans as to how the clubs will be using the building for Club Days. Where will they be and place? So that's definitely a brainstorming session that we will have. And because Shelley has done this in the past, we will ask her to assist with that if she has the capacity, and for Dipti and Afua to also help take lead on that. Dipti?
Yeah, I can. I just have one request. I don't know if we should be waiting for MSA meetings. I can schedule Club Days meeting for those discussion and invite all the clubs coordinators as well, like we have been doing, because it gets pretty hard for us to like wait for like two. I don't know if our meeting is monthly or bi-weekly now, but is it bi-weekly?
Yeah.
Okay, so I can schedule Club Days meeting and have, because if we decide to close the building, we have to have a work order going to facilities pretty soon. Yeah, and communications. Yes, Nancy. So
can you still add MSA committee members?
Yes, I can. I definitely can. And what we can do is once we discuss something and we have a plan ready, we can always bring it to the MSA and discuss that further. And if anyone has any questions or concerns, then we can consider that as well. But I think it's that's how we have been doing. We always form a committee for Club Days and we always actually decide things. And I usually do it like once in 2 weeks, but then it also I'll make sure that I invite Shelley, and if John is available by then we can invite John as well and have few discussions and decisions taken then and there itself, because we definitely need more people like communications, which are not part of the MSA committee actually.
Okay, so an action item would be to have Club Days meetings, to invite Shelley, maybe John, our MSCs, and our MSA members and communications team. Damon, Tony, and Jin, you aren't required to go to these Club Days meetings. They will, but I think it's a really good thing for your portfolio as MSA committee members and as non-executive to attend these meetings. That would also help bring up your hours if you're short within the 20 that you're required to do within a month. So that could be helpful, as well as this is an ongoing project for you to have within your own portfolio. So Damon, Tony, and Jen, I highly encourage you to attend these meetings. Dipti, we do have an email address for MSA. So if you could still invite them to that, that would be good. And then when we have our MSA meetings, we can, as a collective, as well as the leads on this project, so possibly Dipti to show us within a presentation or bring what we talked about within these Club Days meetings. I really do want student involvement from our non-executive counselors to attend these Club Days meetings so that we're all in the loop, and I will attend those as well. So that these Club Days might also have to start if you need to, Dipti, all one before the month ends, because we're only on October 15th. Sorry, 14th. Okay, we have a couple minutes left. I'm going to go quick to 6.4 room booking updates. We just got an email actually 8 minutes ago from Shelley on this. So TLDR, we're hoping to, so Ricky is going to send in the request for changes to Gravity. So Gravity is the online platform that we're using for students to self-book. The goal, at least, probably will be around November. So it has been a process. I know that I've been bringing to council for the past semester, Damon, Tony, and Jin. We don't know when it's going to open yet, but we're also working with an external company to help us with this process. I provided changes and feedbacks to the documents that our building managers, sorry, our building coordinators have given us. as well as MSC changes to these documents. Our staff really had only started working in the sub just a few weeks ago. So we're still getting used to having the space being filled up and used by both students and staff. So that was just the update that I wanted to provide. Are there any other discussions on room bookings or questions from our non-execs? Okay, thank you then. I will move on to the last discussion item, which is our MSA Google Drive. The link I sent you, I'm going to delete. I sent you a link this morning to Google Drive with all of you, but Samaya already made one for us that I just saw. So we'll be using that instead. Thank you, Samaya, for creating this. So this has our informal meetings, which we've had a few of, including this one. Tony, you came late, so we said that this meeting was going to be informal because we didn't reach quorum, but we still wanted one. It's also still recorded, and we did Robert's rules very, very loosely. We also, something that I need support with, and that's been helpful for me, is when our admin coordinator or admin assistants create like next meeting plans or like action items. So we've had so many between all of the staff and myself to do. So that could be sent out in an email afterwards, and then we'll be prepared for our next committee meeting. Then we also had like our official meetings from that month of June. And then I think we had one like in July and a canceled one in August, but we also had an informal one. So all those documents will be placed in this folder, which I believe that you have access to.
Excuse me, Jess.
Yes.
I just moved the file that I added the action items from today's meeting to the same folder. So we have everything in one place.
Okay, let's do a recap. This is very helpful. So from our meeting today, I will contact SFU facilities about the informal agreement to Aaron Bilcombe, who's from SFU, and then that informal agreement was between SFSS and SFU about poster boards. Ricky already did this, I think, so I'm going to cross this off. I will ask for this. Review COVID funding guidelines at next MSA meeting, so I think that would be from Melanie. Dipti to bring club stays as discussion item for next semester. Melanie to change edits for funding guidelines and COVID-19 guidelines for next meeting. We'll invite Shelley to next meeting and ask to bring floor plan with Fua to bring discussion item for survey clubs days and have her documents prepared. At our next meeting, we will discuss the floor plans, how students will be placed, how we will be using the building, whether or not we close it for club stays. And Dipti is going to have club stays meetings to invite Shelley, MSCs, and MSA members and our communications team. And then, oh, another thing that I'm going to add on to here is I'm going to work with execs about our policies regarding bullying and harassment and sexual violence and assault, especially for within clubs and student unions. Okay. 10:59 on time. Thanks everyone for coming. I appreciate you coming. Jin, go to sleep. It's 3 a.m. now. I appreciate you here. Goodbye, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you.